Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I am Evil Mike, and I got another review for you. This is Harley Quinn's The Eat, Bang, Kill Tour, issue number 3. Um, Written by T. Frankly, art by Max Sarin, colors by Marissa, Louise, and letters by Taylor Esposito. This book is all around funny. The second one was pretty much the story. There was a couple funny parts in it, like a couple parts, but the first one, and specifically this one, man, this one dropped a line in there that it was kind of like a couple of panels that made it funny. But for those of y'all that don't know, this is continuing the end of the first, these 2 seasons that we got from the Harley Quinn animated show, and this comic directly picks up where that leaves off, continuing on with Poison Ivy and Harley, and at the end of the wedding with Kite Man and Poison Ivy. Kite Man leaving Poison Ivy at the altar, and then Harley and Ivy kind of taken off after that. Now they're on like this honeymoon thing where Harley's supposed to be taking Poison Ivy somewhere, and it's just this like journey, um, as we're getting to wherever Harley's taking Ivy. In the second issue, they dropped off, the Harley Quinn's two hyenas, Frank and Lou, and or Lou and Bub. I don't know. They change their names so often, and I'm bad with names as it is. I think it's Lou and Bub. Um, but anyways, so they left. Selena's place in Alleytown after that. And now they're in Bloodhaven. The book starts out and it's like a back and forth, like where it starts out at the end of the story, and then it rewinds and goes back to the beginning, and it just starts out with Ivy and Harley Quinn at a diner, a restaurant, and they're trying to have their first date since the honeymoon start. They're wearing like regular clothes. Ivy's even in makeup. But something happens, and for some reason Hush, the villain, is kind of mad, and he starts fighting Harley and Ivy at the restaurant. And then Harley kind of breaks the fourth wall, and she starts talking to you, and then it rewinds and goes back to where the story starts after they left Selena's house, and talking about, oh, this is confusing, you don't even know what's going on. So they do rewind, and they kind of show after they leave Alleytown. They stop at a rest stop. At the rest stop, there's like a restaurant, something else, and Harley goes to the bathroom. Ivy makes this comment about like they shouldn't have stopped because Gordon has been on this like hunt for both of them, and he's more leaning to the kill side of the bringing them in dead or alive kind of thing. He keeps leaning to the like in the last issue he was throwing grenades around and stuff, and even Batman had to take him down like he was a villain. So they're still kind of worrying about that, but Harley convinces her, and she ends up going to the bathroom, and these two girls end up seeing Harley, and they call the cops. Eventually Ivy has to like she ends up going to the bathroom after Harley Quinn and the two girls, and she ends up like not really saving them because the two girls still call the cops. But Harley, like the two girls kind of make it look like Harley was like brought the situation on, like her craziness caused the two girls to call the cops, and it's really a scene where it was just Harley had nothing to do with it. Ivy kind of questions that, but really what it boils down to is she's tired, hungry, sleepy, and kind of irritated from Gordon chasing them and trying to run them down. They haven't had like a moment to breathe kind of thing. Um, Eventually they end up like starting to leave the rest stop, and like while this was going on, like Batman ends up getting like interjecting the 911 call, and he relays it to Nightwing, and Nightwing does show up at the rest stop to um, it's really like to dismantle the scene because it's said to be like a hostage situation at the diner. Um, and of course, like in the beginning of the situation, it was, but then Harley and Poison Ivy they let the two girls that snitched on Harley, that they let them go, and basically Nightwing shows up, and it's one of where the more funnier parts show up. It's all oriented around Nightwing's butt, and even Ivy and Harley, and it's a glorious scene. It's well written though, but Nightwing actually does something cool where he listens to Harley and Ivy and he lets them go. They do end up meeting this one right before they run into Nightwing. They do end up meeting, and her name is Rain, but they end up meeting another lady who ends up helping them out, and she loves the cause, and she tells them they need to stick together, that girls need their day too, kind of thing, and offers them help, but at the moment they kind of decline it, and then they go outside. That's when they run into Nightwing. Nightwing lets them go, and they kind of move on their way. Then they kind of flash forward to where we are now, and it's just basically them going to the restaurant that we caught at the beginning of the book, and basically the only thing that starts out the incident is just Hush being a jerk. Like Harley and Ivy are at the restaurant, and because they're in kind of not really costume, but Ivy has painted. She's not green. She looks normal, kind of thing, and Harley looks normal, like nobody recognizes her. They both have like face paint kind of stuff on, but while they're eating their dinner and finally getting to have the moment, that's when Hush starts like hitting on Harley and kind of like trying to be really abusive and that kind of stuff, and then that's when Harley and Ivy start fighting Hush and stuff, and they eventually beat his butt, and at the end of it, Falcone, I guess he owns a restaurant or something like that, but he kind of pops in and he's like, hey, I'm sorry this happened, everything's on me, and he ends up setting him up on this like dinner date where they get like a nice night out at an amusement park, and they get to stay at a hotel, and it's all under like on Falcone's dime, and supposedly Harley was the one that convinced him to do all this, but eventually they do show those moments where they're and it's some of the better moments. It's when Harley and Poison Ivy have finally, they're on like a Ferris wheel, and there's a kissing scene, and but it's done really well with like fireworks going off and stuff like that. But it's like the one moment since the comics started that they've had to enjoy each other and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny because they're like bringing Hush along, and they're kind of like the Ivy's using her like Ivies to kind of like on the Ferris wheel as they're going around. He's like in the middle, and it's just a whole bunch of funny stuff. But eventually the episode, and well, I mean, there's another kind of thing that happens in between. But of course, Gordon is there, and he is trying to capture them and stuff. At one point, Nightwing does kind of pop up, and he stops Commissioner Gordon from messing with the girls' night. But on the overall, they just kind of throw Gordon in there to show that he's in there, but he wasn't really in this issue too much, because he's shown as to be like the main antagonist of the book, kind of thing, which I love that idea. But overall, it's another great issue. In my opinion, this was, I mean, all the issues have been great. Issue number 1, in my opinion, was the best so far. Issue 2 was just more of the story-driven, but still good. But this one, I mean, they brought back up the comedy, the art, the story. I'm really excited for the rest of the story. But that's my review. I have more coming, of course. Be on the lookout, and I will see y'all later. Bye!